Hi, and welcome back to the HE Enable podcast. This is the show all about sharing our experiences of disability, long-term health conditions, and neurodiversity in the British higher education system. I'm Kath, and this week I am joined by Nu. Nu is a PhD student specialising in AI strategy and innovation. He also has an extensive track record of social action and leadership. I look forward to discussing both his academic and social action work, so I think it is time to get started. Hi, Nu.
Hi, Kath. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I was just wondering, please can you introduce yourself to our listeners and share a little bit about your background in higher education?
Hi, I'm Nu. I studied electronic engineering at the University of York, and I'm also a graduate engineer at a FTSE 100 company called Spirex Group, and I'm doing my PhD in electronic engineering, specialising in AI.
Oh, I love that. There's a lot of little sub things that you do. I was looking at what to talk about. I was like, I can't keep track of this. I'm just gonna let you talk what you want to talk about. So, if you are comfortable saying, how did your disability impact your experience of higher education?
Yeah, so I've got dyslexia, dyspraxia, ADD, which is often counted as ADHD now, but when I was diagnosed, it was ADD, and a long-term illness called Crohn's disease, which I was diagnosed with in my first year of university. And I think partly down to that, I failed my first year of university, so it had quite a big impact on university. Like I said, I got diagnosed with it during the first year. I was quite ill. And I was already struggling with dyslexia and things as well. I had no idea how to study. To be honest, with the dyslexia. So the Crohn's disease on top of that really pushed me back. I'd sort of managed to push through a little bit of education until that point. I went as a mature student to do education. My sort of steps before that, I redid my GCSEs because I'd failed it all at school. I did my college course, and then I'd somehow managed to get through that. But at university, I just fell down at first. So it did affect me a lot, but I did manage to pull it back around.
Yeah, that is a lot. And also you had obviously the dyslexia, the Crohn's, but also I find in hindsight with my ADHD at least, you lose all structure from formal education as well. Maybe that was slightly different for you, but that can also be a big grounds for a struggle.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like you said at the start, I do quite a lot of different things. My mind is all over the place all of the time, and keeping it focused on one thing can be quite difficult. So I think that was sometimes quite difficult because I'll get hyper focused on the totally wrong thing when I should have been doing my university work. So it wasn't just the Crohn's disease; it was very much me as well, getting distracted a lot.
Happens to the best of us, I will say. Right, next question. So, what was your experience accessing higher education from a disability standpoint?
It was a bit mixed, to be honest. I think the University of York, they were quite good. They were quite supportive. I just didn't really know what I needed. They put a student support plan in place, and they asked me what I needed. But I didn't know what I needed other than getting extra time and exams. The DSA, they gave me a laptop, which was good. Disabled student allowance. I got a laptop through that. With some software. The laptop was really useful. The software was not very useful. It was one was called Read and Write, Dragon AI. No, not Dragon AI, Dragon something, where it's sort of you talk to it, you dictate to it, and it wasn't very good. I ended up using my own one that I bought, which is called Grammarly, which these days is very big, which really did help me at university. But yeah, it was a bit mixed, and partly it was because I didn't really know myself and know what I needed as accommodations from the university. And I never really got on with exams, and even when I asked for exams to be a part of an accommodation from the university, to be honest, they didn't make much of an accommodation for that. I asked if I can do maybe just coursework instead of exams, because I really struggled with short-term memory from the dyslexia, but that wasn't available, so that was something I struggled with. So it was up and down, but some parts of it were good. The laptop was really good.
Yeah, God, I think we were given the same software, and I'm pretty sure I had an episode with another guest a few weeks ago who I think used the same dictation software, I think quite a few years before you did. So I don't think it's changed much, and I think it's still equally bad, unfortunately.
No, it's really bad. And do you know what? I think nowadays it's getting a little bit better, because in the last 2 or 3 years, Google, you can just dictate to it. Microsoft, you can dictate to it. And that's so much better than the software that was dedicated for dictation. So it's getting better with just the things that are naturally available to us now as well.
Yeah, it feels like one of those things that would improve a lot with AI models as well, because you can get more training data the more that people use it. So,
yeah, that's true. That's why I got into AI as well, because it helps me initially with dyslexia, and I think can help other people. So that's the original reason why I really got into AI.
That's so interesting. Maybe we'll touch on that again later. Keep an eye on the questions for now, because for those who are listening, it is currently the hottest day of the year, and we are trying to get through this episode so we can get back to our nice, cool fans. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go on to the next question. So, we've touched on this a little bit already, but did you encounter any obstacles during your experience of higher education? Did you overcome them? And if so, how?
Yeah, I think my first year of university, like I say, I failed. I passed all the coursework, actually. I failed the exams, all but one of my exams I failed. I really wasn't a natural at exams. But the way I went back and passed the next time, the way I got better at it is there's a quote from someone called Henry Ford, and it says, "Failure is the opportunity to begin again more intelligently." And I sort of lived by that quote. So I took a step back and I had analysed what made me fail at these exams. Okay, the short-term memory, I can't really do much about that. But what I can do is I can start revising them early before we've even covered the course material, be a little bit ahead of people, revise, and get it into that long-term memory. So I did things like there's a book called Learning How to Learn, which is a really, really good book. And I did a course as well on Coursera, I think it was. And so I did these courses and I studied how to learn. And how to get things into my long-term memories, to start studying neural networks and things like that, not the AI type, but the human type in your actual brain. And that really helped just to understand how to make the connections in my brain. But the big thing was stepping back. The big thing was seeing, okay, I've failed is not the end of everything. I'm going to step back, and having that resilience to get through this. I think the people who are neurodiverse, who have disabilities, often through our whole life we face these setbacks, so it's a natural thing where we're very resilient, and I think that helped.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, failure can be tough, especially if you maybe if you expect to pass, for example, or something like that. But I think, yeah, the resilience is something that you kind of just have to do and get on with, because otherwise you're just going to come to a grinding halt, and it's not pleasant.
Yeah, that's true. Until that point, when I started redoing my GCSEs and doing my college exam, I say I sort of just got through it, but I did really well on them as well. And I was thinking I was going to come into university, it's just going to be firsts all the way, it's going to be easy. The worst thing I'm going to get is a 2-1. But yeah, it was a total different ball game.
Yeah, we never know what's going to happen in life until we live it. But you're doing a PhD now, which is significantly less memory retention. Which is,
I don't know how that's happened.
I mean, credit to you. Right. So next question. I was kind of looking through what you've been doing while you've been at university. I noticed that you founded something called Role Models Yorkshire, which is an initiative specialising in empowering school children from disadvantaged backgrounds kind of to realise their potential. Do you think that founding this was in any way linked to your experiences of disability? It's really cool.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I finished school. I had one GCSE when I finished school. I often say I didn't have any GCSEs. I did have one. I had a grade B in RE. The reason I often say I didn't have any because it didn't really help me particularly having RE from any of my paths I went down. But yeah, the fact that I finished school without any GCSEs, I didn't really have anybody who was telling me, like, you need to focus on education, you need to do well. I didn't have self-belief. People sort of wrote me off because I was dyslexic. One of my teachers said to my mum in primary school, he won't really amount to much, but he's good looking, so he will do all right because of that. And I still hold on to that good looking comment. I think I get less so as the years go on. But yeah, because of these type of things that people don't necessarily have the role models to tell them education is important. You can do it if you believe in yourself. And this is the way to do it. That's why I started Role Models Yorkshire, to help other people who are in the exact position that I was to believe in themselves and go out and do things.
That's awesome. And how has that kind of been going? I know it's not technically on the script, but like how did that kind of work? Did you find that you'd be like helping the kids who are maybe similar to you, struggling with like the dyslexia and stuff as well?
It was a real diverse range of people that we helped, and these days I'm not running it as much. I'm doing it sort of helping through other charities. But yeah, it was helping kids from mainly just focusing on, if you're from a low socioeconomic background or a neurodiverse background, any sort of disadvantage was helping. And one particular thing that always stands out to me, I was at a science fair with it. We're doing a stand at a science fair, and two girls came up to the stand, little girls, primary school age, and I was doing an engineering stand, and they said, yeah, it seems cool, but engineering is not for people like us. It's not for girls. And by the end of it, they saw engineering as being for them. So that one moment that makes me think, okay, we reached over 100,000 people with it overall. But just thinking back to that one moment, I know I succeeded, hopefully, with one person changing the mindset that they can do something. So for me, it went well. I said at the start, if it helps one person, I've done my job. So I'm quite happy with how it went.
Good. That's so sweet. Yeah, no, I love that. Right. So we're going to kind of pull away from the academics for a second, and kind of all the like role models stuff. Were there any clubs, societies, or initiatives that made a significant positive difference to your experience of higher education?
Yeah, I was the president of the Islamic Society, and that really helped me. It put me into a sort of leadership position. I never planned to do it. I never ran for it. I just ended up in that position, as sometimes you do in life. Two people dropped out before me. I was the last person who was willing to do it, I think, basically. But I ended up in this position, leading this society. And that sort of thing, having the responsibility for other people, trying to learn to be a better version of myself to lead them, really helps me develop. And also getting involved in the community, helping the community through that. So one time we raised £5,000 in 1 week for charity, and doing that type of thing just really, it helps me grow as a person. In the academics, yeah, it helps my brain grow a little bit, but this type of thing, the Islamic Society, the non-profit I did, I was involved with the Mature Students Association for a little bit as well. That type of thing really helped me just to grow more rounded as a person and enjoy university more, because I didn't necessarily always enjoy the academics, but I loved it when I was in the societies, and that sort of made me feel a lot more comfortable. I think it had an effect on the academics in the long run.
Yeah, I had a guest on, Dr. Eleanor, actually, last week, who picked up, I think it was ice skating, for the same thing. They were
Wow.
like, yeah, they're cool. It's really cool. But they were like, I needed something, or it was nice to have something that wasn't tied to the academics, where you can because I feel like there's a tendency in academia to place all your self-worth on your work. And she was saying, it's actually really nice to have something where my value isn't just placed on that. And I think that's probably, does that sound like it rings true for you as well?
Yeah, definitely. I got so much out of doing it, and yeah, you have successes in outside of the academics, and it helps release them endorphins of having success, and it makes you more relaxed when you actually go back to doing the work. It's like you say, you're not putting every single bit of pressure just on that one piece of academic work.
Yeah, no, that's so fair. I think that's a really healthy approach to it. Right, this next question is something I ask all of my guests. Some people like it, some people have really cool responses. Answer as you please. Have you experienced any instances of your disabilities proving helpful in a higher education setting?
Yeah, 100%. I think, there's this narrative around sometimes superpowers and things like that, of disabilities. And I think there's an element of that, and there's an element of holding you back. And I think sometimes people don't like to speak about the superpowers part, which is fair enough, because it takes away from holding you back. But for me, in certain areas, it was my superpower. With Role Models Yorkshire, with my societies, with the university, with my work nowadays, I'm very creative. My creative part of my brain's there. I can think about lots of things going on at once. So as well as that can be a bad thing, think about all these different things. It can also be a positive. I can juggle a lot of things. I've got quite a high barrier, quite a high tolerance for stress and a lot of things coming at me. So it helps me cope with quite a lot, actually. And as I said earlier, we're very resilient often when we have disabilities and we have neurodiversity. And that resilience comes from the fact we've had to overcome so much. The things that we've often had to overcome in life, we can think, what else can life throw at me that I'll have to overcome than this? So we know where we can overcome anything. We know where we can fail and we can get back up and start again. So it's had a lot of positive effects, and I'm thankful actually for the challenges as well of it, because it's all taught me stuff.
Yeah, I think I've kind of experienced the same thing. You find that the fact that you learn so much from the failures, maybe you've learned more than maybe like your neurotypical peers kind of thing. And then in a way you can kind of become like this guide, like they're really struggling, like, oh wait, no, you got this, you know.
Yeah.
It's not my first time. Let me guide you through yours. I think it can be really comforting. Actually, I agree.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I think, what do you really learn from everything going smoothly? You get to the end of the university, you can easily forget stuff if it's all gone smoothly. Like, you just done it, is gone. You learn from when you fail. You think the whole reason when we're doing from GCSEs up, we do past papers. The reason we do past papers is because we want to get to a question, fail it, then we have to go back and learn how to do the question properly. And life's just like that, I think. We just have to keep failing and then learning from it, and we become better, bigger and better people.
Yeah, I've noticed it. So I work with mostly SEN kids, majority dyslexic at my work, and I look at it, and sometimes they just don't answer questions. Right, they're in class and they're like, oh, I haven't answered this, and I don't know. I'm like, well, I'd rather, we can do corrections, sure, but you're going to gain more from trying and getting it wrong than you are from just not attempting it at all. And I've actually found that building those kind of habits and resilience actually starts quite young. And I don't think a lot of them realise kind of how important it is.
Yeah, in the Mature Students Association, someone said something right at the start of university that shit. Well, it was the start of my second time around. So after I'd failed my first year, start of my first year, someone said something to me that really stuck with me, and it helped me at university and now in work. They said to me, when you put your hand up in class and you ask a question, after you've asked that question, you're often thinking for the next 10 minutes, what's everyone going to think of me? That was such a stupid question. I'm so embarrassed. But everybody in that class, they're actually thinking about themselves. No one's thinking about you. No, everyone's forgotten your question within 2 minutes. And if someone notices, it's probably because they're thinking the same thing and they've asked the questions to help them. I think sometimes we're scared to ask questions is the point, but actually there's no harm in it. There's no such thing as a stupid question.
No.
And people don't actually judge us for it as much as we think they are.
Yeah, I feel like you can kind of, especially with like ADHD and kind of conditions like that and ADD, as you were diagnosed with, you get RSD, rejection sensitive dysphoria. And that just perpetuates it, right? You're like, oh, this is the worst thing ever, right? Like, maybe I'm like a terrible person, but you're kind of building your own rejection, kind of. And that can obviously snowball into something worse, but I feel like it might kind of have its origins in that.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and it's definitely something. I'm not saying I never struggle with that as well. It does come in. Sometimes I'll even finish a meeting at work, and I'll be like, everyone just thinks I'm an idiot or something like that, even though they don't. And they've not really given me any signals to think that I am. I'm just overthinking a question for the next hour that I asked. But it's always thinking back to that moment. Actually, no one's judging you on that question. However stupid it was, if it was a stupid question, which I don't really think there is such a thing, everybody's forgotten it. No, they're not going to remember that. They're living we're all the superstar of our own movie, I guess. Everyone's focusing on their own story, their own life. Yeah,
I noticed it, like, especially when I moved to Oxford, which is kind of famously insular. And I think it's true anywhere in life, but then you kind of, at an institution like that, I guess you kind of see it in action a lot more. And I was like, oh, okay, this is what they meant when like everyone's in their own world. It's definitely a thing in academia for sure. Absolutely. Right. Next question. Obviously you said that you've had a couple of takes at university. Feel free to answer whichever point in your life this feels most relevant. But is there anything you had wished you had known about university before starting?
I think I wish I'd known that thing about failing. That failing is not a bad thing; it's a good thing. And being scared of failure. I spent so many sleepless nights scared of failing university, and I never failed the year again. I failed it the first time, but every single year at the end of the year, I was always scared that I was going to fail that year. I think it helped me in a way because I always tried the extra bit harder not to do it again. But I think, yeah, that's the biggest thing at university and in life. If someone could have told me earlier on, don't be scared to fail. And actually failure is a good thing. Learn from it and grow from it is one of the best things that can happen to you. That's the thing that I wish I knew. I'm happy that I learned it by failing though, because it's a point in case.
Yeah, especially when you like survive the failure as well, right? And you're like, oh, actually, this is something I've hacked up in my mind, and it does suck, but it is survivable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a huge thing in it. Where failing university can feel like it's the end of the world. And to be fair, I knew that I could get an automatic resit before of the year before I'd actually got my result. I knew I failed it before I got it free. But it felt for a moment like the end, especially because I went a little bit later, and I was thinking, okay, I'm a little bit older than everyone else anyway. I don't want to be too far back in my career compared to everyone else. But yeah, it was just the way my life was meant to go. I think everything happens for a reason, and it's all a way to grow.
Yeah, ditto. It's something that not everyone will live through, but something that even if it absolutely sucks at points, it's something that you can learn from. I think is what it is. But it can still
Yeah,
suck.
yeah. And everyone's going to fail at something, even if it might not be university. Everyone at some point is going to have some huge failure, even if it's just forgetting to get something from the shops. And at the moment, it feels like a massive thing. I've not learned from that one yet. I do always forget stuff from the shops.
Shopping lists.
Yeah.
Right. I'm actually really excited for your response to this question, kind of because you've done so much social action work. But how do you think that we can improve the experience of higher education for people as both individuals and as a society?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of facets to this. Actually, I think there's a lot of answers that I could give. I think one thing is before someone gets to university, we need to be getting people from the university, representatives from higher education, into low socioeconomic schools in areas where people are not going to university, because you've got so much talent hidden away there. That's just, they don't even believe in themselves. Bring that belief out in them. But then when you actually get to university, and it's more to do with disability, when you actually get to university, I think there needs to be an equitable way of assessing people. Not some people, say you got dyslexia, for example, like myself, an exam is the worst possible place for you to be, or for many people with dyslexia, definitely for me, an exam is the worst possible place to be. It's a bit of an archaic way of doing something. Some people can cram learn and do it the night before, and they can pass that exam with the best possible result, whereas other people, they can't keep that in the memory in the short term, but you do an assignment and you absolutely flourish at it. So I think there should be, when everybody goes to university, and there was a Jamie Oliver documentary the other day, I don't know if you saw, about dyslexia, and he said it basically, when someone in a school classroom, there's been shown this, when a school classroom, and they changed the approach to be better for the people with dyslexia, the approach of teaching, it helps everybody. And I think this can happen with this. If everybody gets the opportunity to pick whether to do exams or assignments, which some universities do, then it will be equitable for everybody.
Yeah, I think it's becoming a more common saying nowadays is, the more you make things accessible for those who need it, the more accessible it becomes for everyone. I think those results do not surprise me in the slightest. Not at all. I mean, we have some time if you wanted to explore that question a little bit more as well. You said you had quite a few answers.
Yeah, I think it starts from primary school. It starts from the very youngest age, that some people are naturally because of their environment, not naturally because of themselves, are going to be siphoned off into certain types of environments. More people at my school went to prison than went to university, and it's not because the people were any less smart than me. I was not the smartest person at school. It's just life has given me different opportunities, and I happened to fall upon the right people at the right time. But we need to not be leaving it to someone falls upon them people. And I also got involved in sport, which kept me away. But we need to be giving people focus. So the sport gave me a focus. It kept me out of trouble. We need to be giving young people right from the start the belief that they can succeed at academia. Remember when I said my primary school teacher said is not going to achieve much, it's not going to amount to much, but it's good looking, so I'll do all right. I think it probably meant I'll do all right at Foot Locker or some sort of shop, because I might get hired in a shop or something, but it definitely didn't mean academia. And so many times I heard that said again and again throughout my time at school, right from the start of school, right to university. When I got to university, people started showing belief now, but showing the belief in people from right at the bottom of school, from primary school, even nursery, getting that in early is, the evidence shows that if you get in early and make people believe in themselves, it changes the trajectory of the whole life. I definitely, like you said, I'm doing a PhD now. So obviously I could have achieved things earlier, because it's harder when you're older to do, to get things to stick and things like that. But I just didn't have that belief in myself. So I think belief is a huge thing. And as a society, we're letting people down. Our school system's really letting people down.
Yeah, I think the other thing, obviously you mentioned the story about the girls and you like kind of show them that love of engineering. I think the other thing is like belief, but also the self-belief that you can be curious. I think a lot of people might be like, hey, I'm not from a background where I can kind of dream these dreams, and it's about not even self-belief, because you can not believe in yourself and still be curious about the world, right? I think maybe it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B of that curiosity as well.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. When I was at primary school, I never thought I would be going to university, because I didn't know what university was. When I was in secondary school, I didn't know. I thought a degree and a diploma was the same thing. I didn't know. I mean, maybe if you're in America, but I didn't really understand what these things were. So I didn't know it was an opportunity. So as curious as I could have been, I don't know how I could have been curious on that thing. Maybe I could have been. Maybe I could have done more, but I just didn't know what it was. I thought the best pay range. I remember seeing a pay. This was my dream job. Now I think it's probably minimum wage you would get paid that. But at the time I remember thinking, that's my dream job. That's such good pay. Because my aspirations, like, that was the limit. You often judge yourself off your sort of parents or the people around you, and you think, okay, if I can do a little bit better than they've done, then I'm probably going to be successful. Or even I get to their limit, I'm going to be successful. But you can't always see above the sky if there's a big thing blocking you, or there's no one sort of opening it up for you. So yeah, I think there's a huge thing about opening up you got a lot of people who are curious, but they just don't have that. There's no way of them knowing what's out there. So showing people, here's your opportunity, here's your confidence to go and do it. And like you say, you're able to explore, like, you're able to be curious, whatever background you're from, it's open to you. No one's any better than you. We've all got the same sort of insides. No one's smarter than anyone else at the starting point, in my opinion. There's a big argument about that, but yeah, I think there's a big thing around that, starting young, getting people inspired young.
Yeah, no, I love that, and especially given your background, I think that should really ring home for people, because like, you're doing incredibly well for yourself, which brings us on to the next question. Actually segued really well. What are you doing nowadays, and how have your past experiences in higher education kind of affected this?
Yes, I'm just coming to the end of my graduate scheme at a FTSE 100 engineering company. It's a lovely company, and I'm sort of looking at transitioning onto my permanent role in the scheme in the company after the scheme. The House University helped me with that. It's made me critical. I'm a very critical thinker, and that's why alongside it I'm doing a PhD. But even in the workplace, that's really useful. You look at, what is this opportunity? Can it work? Can I start to explore things as well? That sort of curiosity that was born through the experiences at university, them extracurricular things like the Islamic Society that I mentioned, showed me that exploring new avenues can lead to great results. So now I use curiosity probably a lot more than I would have done if I'd gone in straight away before going to university. And yeah, the PhD, I got a love of research, to be honest. I love researching things, and that was all born out of university. And I love just looking at something critically. Is this possible? There's an opportunity here. Where can I link these things together? Yeah, that's where I am now. That's what's going on. And looking forward to what's coming next.
Yeah, all good stuff. Yeah, I mean, people always come out on the other side, even if it takes a while, right? I think you said that you've had a lot of stuff before uni. You know, we all live through our own failures, and I think you're like the perfect example of how, like, it will be okay.
Yeah, yeah. Keep calm and carry on is the British thing, innit? I don't know if it's always the best saying, but it will be. As much stress as you get along the way, as much you might feel down or feel like it's impossible to. I definitely thought it wasn't possible for me to graduate university. I didn't think it was possible to get a GCSE. So, now I'm doing a PhD. So anything's possible. And it's just having that belief in yourself, and knowing that everything everything works out well in the end. There's a quote from the Quran actually, which I always think of, and it's with every hardship comes ease. And the way it says it is, with every hardship comes more ease. So when something's been really hard, when you've been through a really hard time, there's going to be even more ease in that hardship. And if you think back to a time when you've had difficulties in life, if I think back to the time when my Crohn's disease was really playing up, I was really ill, but then I got better and I got healthier, and I appreciate life even more because of that. I failed my exams, and then I passed my exams with even better grades than I probably would have done initially. So every hardship comes easy. Whether you follow it for religious reasons or for whatever, I think that's a really good saying to remember.
Yeah, life is never gonna be linear, and I think as soon as you can get on the roller coaster, probably has lots of ups and downs, then the easier it's gonna become for sure. Right, new final question. So if we were to take all of your experiences, kind of, even from when you were a kid, if you want to, all the way to where you are now, what one key takeaway would you want the listeners to remember from your story?
Yeah, I think it's been a theme through this conversation that, and I'll say the quote from Henry Ford again, because he can say it better than I ever could, but failure is the opportunity to begin again more intelligently. You can always step back, analyze why something is a hurdle in the road, and then go back at it and more intelligently and be better for it.
Yeah, I love doing this podcast because of how you just see human resilience, and I think you are like an absolute example of that. No, we're done with the questions. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks very much for having me. It's been great speaking to you.
Yeah, thank you. Right, let me do my bit. HE Enabled is the show all about sharing our experiences of neurodiversity, disability, and long-term health conditions in the British higher education system. I'm always looking for new people to come onto the show. If you think it's you or someone you might know, please get in touch at the email henabled@gmail.com. It is also in the show's description. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Take care.